All right, welcome back to the Natural Health 365 Podcast. Today, I am with a very special friend and guest, Joel. Thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. It's a delight and an honor. Yes.
Oh, it's an honor for me as well. Listen, I like to call you America's Farmer. I don't know if you like that title, but it's a lot to learn today about food. It seems like everybody's only talking about virus and injections and therapeutics, and we must test people to see if they have a virus, like we've never had a virus in us or a bacteria or anything, and nobody is talking about how food is fundamental to a strong immune system. I mean, right, Joel? What's going on here, huh?
Well, what we've done is we have cheated, if you will. We've cheated our food system from trying to maintain fertility in the soil, which is supposed to be so complex that there are more beings in a double handful of healthy soil than there are people on the face of the earth. It's that complex, and yet mainstream industrial orthodoxy, the narrative is, oh, you just dump some chemical NPK on it, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. That's all you need, and everything's fine. And so, what's happened is Sir Albert Howard wrote about this when he wrote an agricultural testament back in 1950, and he used the word artificial manures for chemical fertilizers. He called them artificial manures. He said, when we use artificial manures, we make artificial plants that then make artificial animals, which then create artificial people who can only be kept alive with artificials. And that was written in like 1943. So how prescient, was he?
It's interesting what you're bringing up already as I'm listening to you talk. This whole idea, and I'm sure you shake your head at it all the time, and I'd love for you to speak to it, is we have to kill everything like bugs and pests and rodents. Everything's got to be killed. You can only grow food, like you say, by spraying all these chemicals. Joel, are you doing this on your farm? How on earth do you grow food?
No, we're not doing this on our farm. So our whole belief system is about the terrain, the habitat. In the totality of things, there's about 90, all bugs, microscopic bugs, all bugs, 95% are good, 5% are pathogenic. Really, nature has stacked the deck to where the good bugs should beat the bad bugs. And so, a perfect example of this is like when we raise chicks. So we raise chickens. We get these little chicks, and of course they've got to be brooded. They can't, little chick, you can't just throw it outside. And of course, in the old backyard days, they were stayed warm under their mother. But in commercial like we're doing, you can't have a mother hen for every couple of chicks. So we raise them in a brooder, and that brooder has heat in it. Heat, we call those hovers. And but of course the chicks, they're not potty trained. They just poop at will. And so where's that poop going to go? And so we actually maintain a deep bedding of wood shavings, and this carbonaceous, we call it a carbonaceous diaper, provides it's real deep. So unlike most places, we don't just have 1 or 2 inches. We have it deep enough so that a composting process can happen. There are a few things as healthful in nature as a compost pile. It self-medicates, it self-regulates, it self-purifies, it self-balances. It's a wonderful thing. And so by running a deep bedding process as opposed to a very narrow bedding, by having a very deep bedding, it gives enough mass in there, volume in there for all of these, for the protozoa and the bacteria and the microbes and the good bugs to be able to have a great terrain, a great habitat, and they then beat the bad bugs. And so that's just one example on the farm of creating a terrain that is strategically developed in order to maintain a complete complex diversity of bugs, so that the good ones are able to win.
Talk a little bit, Joel, about what your farm is actually doing. You have a lot going on, don't you?
Well, we do. I mean, so we're in livestock. We're in animals, and so we have beef, pork, chicken, turkey, eggs, duck, lamb, rabbit. It's a pretty wide array, but none of these is in what we'd call a factory farm situation, or a concentrated animal feeding operation. Rather, we want each one to be offered a habitat that allows it to fully express its phenotypical or its physiological distinctiveness. That's why we talk about, respecting the pigness of the pig and the chickenness of the chicken. So that what you find is that a stress-free, happy animal is also an animal with the best immunological function. An animal that lives with a really great diet and a great exercise program and light and the right amount of social interaction, not too much, not too little. All of those factors add into a cumulative balance of health and vitality. And so as a result, we, essentially, we don't even though we raise thousands and thousands of animals, we don't even have an expense category called veterinary services. Now, occasionally you do lose an animal, but it's so occasional and so minor that we end up, not having those kinds of issues, which of course plague most farms. Most farms are constantly, oh no, what's sick today? Oh no, what, that sort of thing. And so when on the regular industrial farm today, when an animal gets sick, for example, the first thought through the farmer's mind is, oh, I must not have used the right vaccine or the right medication or the right whatever. Our first thought is, okay, what did we do to break down the immunological terrain that allowed whatever this sickness is to get into the animal? So we look introspectively at a management problem. The conventional view is to look outwardly at I'm a victim of a wrong, somebody gave me the wrong stuff, as opposed to I'm managing and I'm supposed to be working with health here, not just trying to forestall sickness with something from outside.
A lot of people, Joel, you understand this too, who are watching this program, they already get it, but there are millions and millions of people that are so disconnected to so many of the things that you just talked about respecting each and every form of life. I mean, it was just amazing, all the things you just said. I know you say it all the time, so you're probably like, it's just regular for me, Jonathan. But respecting life, the way each life form is grown, make sure they're happy, they're healthy. You don't over-medicate. You don't give drugs to keep something healthy, an animal healthy. It's the same. It's like a microcosm. What's happening in your farm is the way we should also be treating human beings, which is just another form of animal. I mean, my mind was going in all different places when you were talking about what you do on your farm is exactly what we should be doing in treating people. We should be focusing on their inner terrain. I've been saying often the last few weeks, Joel, the mask that we should all be wearing is a much healthier, stronger immune system. Now, how do we get busy to do that? Talk a little bit more about what you're doing to keep your farm so happy, healthy, vibrant, and you're super busy these days, right?
Oh, yeah, we are. And certainly the pandemic. I mean, our joke around here is if we had known the pandemic would be such a great marketing strategy for authentic food, we'd have ordered it up 3 years ago. So yes, we've been crushed with sales, with with people wanting information, backyard chickens. I'm leaving the city. I want to buy a little acreage. Where do I buy? How do I start? And so essentially, we're looking at each animal and plant. The plants are the same thing, and we're saying, so what's nature's template? What's nature's template for vigor and for functionality? And back, I'm sure you remember, Jonathan, back whatever it's been now, 25 years ago, when the industry began feeding dead cows to cows, and the U.S. I call it the U.S. Offered free seminars for farmers like me to go and learn this new scientific method of feeding dead cows to cows, and at that time nobody knew that there was going to be a problem with it, but I looked at that and other farmers like me that are coming from this more holistic, we're all connected type of paradigm, and we looked at this and said, wait. There's no place in nature where an herbivore eats carrion. I mean, show me the place. And so our farm and other farms like us, we did not buy into that, not because we hated science or hated progress or didn't want to drop expenses. We didn't do it because there was not a nature's template that indicated that such a relationship was okay. And so, of course, we were laughed at and told, we were Luddites and barbarians and what do you want to do? Go back to caves and all this stuff. Well, then, 25, 30 years later, suddenly we have bovine spongiform encephalopathy, known as mad cow disease. And suddenly, the whole global scientific community says, oops, maybe we shouldn't ought have done that, right? And so who was right? So the point is that we make decisions not just based on what we can do, because we're really clever. We can do things that hurt us. My dad used to call this overrunning our headlights. We can overrun our headlights, with creativity, with innovation. We rather ask not what can we do, but what should we do that is within this beautiful nature's balance and honor of a template. And so as we do that, what happens is we find that, my goodness, we can farm commercially, and we also have more wildlife. We have more pollinators. We have more water. We have more commons. We grow soil. And farming is not an extractive activity. It can actually be a regenerative activity. And so all of these negatives and problems start to ease away when we look and say, what is nature's template, and how do we duplicate the order of nature, on a commercial domestic scale.
Joel, what do you say to people? Because you mentioned it just briefly, right? That sort of attitude out there, right, of the skeptics who listen to the way you speak. Can you really feed the world, right, with your system of the way you grow, the way you raise animals in your farm? What do we do about all the hungry people out there? Speak to those farmers out there, those skeptics. What do you say to them?
Sure. Well, first of all, nobody in the world goes hungry because there's not enough food. For the first time in human history, we are now, depending on what data source or statistician you read after, for the first time in human history, we are throwing away up to 50% of all the human edible food in the world. It spoils. It's too long. It's too short. It's got a little blemish. It sat on a dock. The sell-by day ran out. I mean, there's the amount. I mean, this is why we have a whole plethora of dumpster diving now. You can live out of dumpsters with all the wasted food. And so first of all, nobody in the world is starving because there's not enough food. Now, Are people starving? Absolutely, but it's not because there's not enough food. It's social political stuff. It's, some warlord won't let a Red Cross truck pass pass into a village without extracting some sort of a bribe that the folks can't pay, or there's those types of things. It's not because there's not enough food. Number two, that is that our side. I'll almost say our side, the regenerative, you can call it organic, ecological, authentic, integrity. I don't care what you call it, but the non-chemical, non-industrial side, our side has not been sitting still. If you go back to the 1950s, when our side needed fertility with compost piles and things like that, we were suffering from not having the infrastructure, front end loaders, wood chippers, carbon handling capacity to be able to, foliar sprays, fish emulsion, to be able to use waste streams and technology to be able to keep up with the chemical folks right at that time. Now, we haven't been sitting on our hands. All of our infrastructure is caught up now. I mean, electric fence to be able to move cows around. In our county, for example, on our farm right now, we get 5 times the county average of production on our pastures. 5 times the county average. That's not because I'm not saying that proudly. I'm saying that humbly. That's how powerful nature is. We've got this idea that nature is a reluctant partner. We've got to get nature in a half Nelson, and I'm going to wrestle you and I'm going to make you do. We got this kind of idea where we've got to subdue and all this. And actually, nature is a benevolent lover that just wants to be caressed in the right places. That's all. And that's a very different way to look at life and to look at nature.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because it's about harnessing like what you're busy doing all the time. And by the way, just real quick, you said people are reaching out to you, they're calling. Do you have programs where you could teach people how to be more self-sustainable? Can they visit your farm, learn, and go back home and start creating this with people at home? How does that work?
Yeah, well, sure. We have an entire, educational outreach. So, I've written 14 books. So that's a good start. And of course, there's a lot of YouTube stuff, but we do intensive seminars here. We do almost monthly what we call the lunatic tour. These are hayride, hay wagon tours. And so, yeah, we have a pretty broad platform of educational outreach. There's a lot of options there. And so, yeah, people that are interested need to just jump on one of those.
And again, what you're doing at your farm, there really is no need to feed the animals genetically modified food. You're not pumping them with antibiotics, synthetic hormones. I mean, all of this is just not in your world, correct?
No, it's not. It's not. And our production is right there with any, in fact, it's higher. It's substantially higher, partly because we're stacking. I'm going to use a powerful word here. It's segregation. That's a powerful word. But our industrial system segregates everything. It segregates the eaters from the growers. It segregates the animals from the plants. It segregates the manure, the blessings of manure and urine from the crops that that produced it. It separates fertility from plants. So everything in our industrial system is segregated. What we want to do is integrate. We want an integration program so that rather than having everything broken apart, we're actually bringing things together very, very closely. I mean, this is the beauty of backyard chickens. I'm a big fan of what I call kitchen. It's a little bit hard to say, kitchen chickens, because if you have a couple, 3 chickens in your house eating food scraps, they'll eat your food scraps. Now you don't have to send anything to the landfill, and they give you a couple eggs every day. So now you have eggs, and you don't have landfill. You don't have garbage to send to the landfill. Everybody wins that way. And if you have teenagers in the house, what better role model for teenagers? Chickens are the first animal that wakes up in the morning. They always wake up happy. They spend all day turning trash into treasure. And as soon as the sun goes down, they go to bed. What a perfect role model for teenagers.
Yeah, that's great, Joel. Why don't you, just for a moment, I don't know why my mind went there. I remember you once describing, I think it was probably in video. I was just really drawn in. I know it might be a little tricky in this audio video type thing to describe it without you being on the farm, but can you just describe that dance, if you will, about how you rotate the animals, like the bigger animals and how they're mowing the grass, they're chewing it up, and then you bring in the smaller guys later. Can you just kind of go through that a little bit? Because it's really fun for people to understand, like you use this word integration, not loosely, you live it every day.
Yes. In fact, we even call it ballet on the pasture. It's literally a choreography. So you have solar energy that comes down and grows biomass. In our case, would be grass, clover, forbs, all sorts of plants. Those plants have a life cycle that responds positively to strategic, timely pruning, just like an apple tree or a grapevine responds to pruning. So the biomass, the forage type biomass responds to pruning like a lawn mowing. Okay. And so we bring the cows through, and the cows are moved every day onto small paddocks, in what we call mob stocking, herbivorous solar conversion, lignified carbon sequestration, fertilization. And they prune it. And of course they're leaving manure behind. So then behind the cows come the egg mobiles. The chickens then, like the egret on the rhino's nose, the chickens then scratch through the cow patties and eat out the fly larvae, spread out the cow patties so they actually fertilize the ground. And you have this, and then the chickens, of course, they're eating the grasshoppers and crickets that are now exposed from the pruning and laying eggs as a byproduct of pasture sanitation. So that's the kind of complex relational integration that we're talking about, where the animals do the work and fulfill meaningful, distinctive responsibilities. So the chickens now, they're not just egg layers, they're actually co-laborers and team members in this great land healing ministry. It completely changes our emotional and spiritual relationship with them as well.
It's just so great. I hope after this show, it turns on so many people to, at the very least, connect with their local farmer, because they're going to be healthier. So I'm leading somewhere with this, and I'd love for you to speak to it. I know you can. This whole idea that these, we've said it a couple times already, these happy, healthy animals, that now you have food that human beings eat. What a radical concept. They become healthier human beings instead of this pro-inflammatory way of living where we are killing every bug, we're chemicalizing the soil, we're doing monocrop agriculture, all this sickening stuff. When people get sick, they're getting drugs, they're killing their gut with antibiotics, they're killing the animals with all the drugs. I mean, it's just this vicious cycle. Instead of, if people ate the kind of food that you raise, Joel, they would literally see, like just as one example, the omega-3, 6, and 9 balance, right? All of a sudden, it would be better because they're consuming an animal that is a better quality food, a better nutritional profile. Fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. We've actually participated in numerous studies over the years you can now measure nutrient analysis. We actually participated with 11 other farmers in the U.S. back, I don't know what, about 8 years ago with Mother Earth News magazine. They got tired of being told, oh, look, an egg is an egg is an egg. What difference does it make? And so they got 12 of us to send our eggs to a lab, to a food lab. And we measured about 10 things. I'll just pick out one: folic acid. Folic acid is real important, especially for pregnant women. And the USDA nutritional label, official label, says there's like 48 micrograms per egg, and our Polyface pastured eggs averaged 1,038 micrograms per egg. I mean, this is not a percentage increase; it's a magnitude increase. Riboflavin in grass-finished beef, about 300% higher than grain-finished beef, than feedlot beef. What's the importance of riboflavin? Well, riboflavin is especially the B vitamin, one of them, that is a stress reducer. And so think about right now in the world and in our country, think about the stress factors in our country right now. And if there's a time when you want stress relief, you want riboflavin. And sometimes I think the fact that we have shootings and road rage and things going on like we do is because people are depriving themselves of riboflavin by not eating grass-finished beef. Conjugated linoleic acid is another one that's huge. The whole polyunsaturated, saturated, unsaturated profile, ratio is completely contingent on exercise and on green material, the carotenes that are in the green material. That's what we call our beef salad bar beef, to try to help people to understand this is not feedlot beef, it's salad bar beef. We call our chickens pastured poultry. We're moving them every day to a fresh spot. They're not on a dirt yard. They're not on a confinement house. And so that green, just like for us, the greens have all these antioxidants and all these things that help immunological function. I'm sure, Jonathan, you remember, oh goodness, what it was about 7 years ago when that high path avian influenza came across the Indochina and even started knocking on the door of Europe. At that time, Great Britain did some feeding trials with poultry and found that if a chicken eats 2 blades of fresh grass a day, they'll not get high path avian influenza. Now you would think that some official, somebody somewhere, would have said, okay, stop the presses. We're going to make sure all chickens get 2 blades of grass a day, so we don't have to worry about this. But it never sees the light of day in mainstream media. It gets buried in little, obscure publications, and nobody sees it. And this is the kind of censorship and squelching that the Orthodox narrative does on whenever there's a true truthful answer. If it doesn't put money in the pockets of some big corporation, it essentially gets sequestered and censored.
Okay, so Joel, let's get into this part, which I think is going to be a lot of fun for some people who really want to go a little deeper into a lot of the stuff that you're talking about here today. I mean, you're just literally scratching the surface. I'd love for you to talk about your brand new book. Tell us what it's called. What's the passion behind it? Why did you create it? Take it away, Joel.
Well, the book is beyond labels. And the reason it's so great is because I only wrote half of it. The other half is written by Dr. Sina McCullough, who is a PhD, nutritionist who actually got so immunocompromised from eating the standard American diet, even though she was well educated, PhD, she did not understand the things that you're talking about, and got so sick that her family was actually planning her funeral. That's how sick she was, and this drove her to use her training to start looking at alternative paths. Fortunately, I grew up in a family that was completely, unorthodox anyway. I grew up on, Mother Earth News, Organic Gardening and Farming Magazine. And, my dad was a vision. My grandfather actually, had compost piles and was a charter subscriber to Rodale Organic Gardening and Farming Magazine. So here you've got, one completely, I say, non-chemical agriculture is in my DNA. I'm coming from one path, and Dr. Sina is coming from, a very, very, grew up on Pepsi and pizza. And here we have converged at this point to where we've got a doctor and a farmer having a dialogue. So the idea is beyond labels is to realize the amount of clever speak. And listen, if you're relying on labels for your food choices, you're probably extremely disconnected from your food. And so our goal in writing the book was to create a continuum, not to judge people, but to say, hey, are you eating out of the filling station? Okay, you're starting here. Are you going to the health food store? You're here. Okay. Everybody is on a place in this continuum toward we'll just call it a paradise, a paradise of, integrity, food nirvana. Okay. And so Sina and I essentially start the book with a person that's eating out of the filling station, and we take with these little practical bites. She came up with that. It's a great little, metaphor. We don't have chapters. They're practical bites. And so you progress on this continuum through. Now, everybody is not going to end up where we ended up. And in fact, Sina and I, we don't do everything we espouse either. I mean, all of us have our little, whatever, hypocrisies, if you will. But we went all the way to an end so that we would have a destination on our roadmap, and also so that we would challenge everybody, including ourselves, to move to a place of maximum health, rather than just, well, I don't feel sick today, I must be okay. I mean, we've got that idea today that so often, well, if I'm not sick, I must be okay. Well, that's not good enough. What we want is we want to get up and not just not feel sick.
Joel, what you're talking about is so important. Back to what you said earlier about the fact that every single day when someone, again, and I'm saying it just like you, with all due respect, if you're being lackadaisical about the kind of food you're eating day in and day out, and you're slowly going downhill in your nutritional makeup, what is making up you as a human being, when the stresses come, like a bacterial or viral infection, and it's like, okay, let's go. The immune system, come to the rescue. It's like your body is going to literally be exhausted. It's not going to have that strength and that vitality to adapt, to respond. I'm sure that's what you see going on your farm every day. That's what you're mindful of, is keeping the farm healthy, strong, active, and vibrant to deal with the thousands of things you don't even see. And so it's so important, your message, that this is what we should be focusing on more than just therapeutics, injections, and just let's test people. And, oh, yeah, by the way, the whole global Western medicine mentality of, hey, if you're not sick, don't worry about anything. And when you are sick, come to see me then, and we'll talk a little bit. That is way too late to take action.
Right, it is. And of course, Sina and I, when we started this project, goodness, a year and a half ago. It's been a good while. I mean, it took us most of a year just to agree on what we wanted to say and agree on format. Lots of back and forth there. But we certainly could never have foreseen the strategic launch of this right in the midst of this pandemic. So we spend a lot of time in the book talking about immune function. How do you develop an immune system? And yes. So how do we make food decisions so that we know we're getting the very best we possibly can? So we're getting what maybe we could look. The average American is far more concerned about the purity of the gasoline in their automobile than the purity of the food that they're eating. And so the whole idea is to empower people to make so that you're making good decisions. But we go farther than that. We talk about hydration, for example. Most Americans are dehydrated. So we even have a little piece on how to make sure you're getting enough water. We even have a piece on forgiveness. You can be vengeful or hate, full of hate, and you can eat as good as anything. But if you're full of hate and vengeful, you probably have a suppressed immune system. If you're worried, okay, I mean there are it's a whole host of things, and so in the book it's as if a farmer and this doctor, this PhD, it's like you're sitting in a room and just listening in on us dialogue with each other. We decided to do it that way, rather than most co-authored books are a little bit stilted. As you can see, the two authors trying to push their different things into one narrative. And we decided, we complement each other and we're so different. Let's just enjoy our different narrative and let people get this more eclectic dialogue. And interestingly, almost everybody that reads the book, in the first page, they find it a little bit jarring, but within about 5 or 6 pages, it actually works. It's like there's a movement there, because Joel's going to add to the conversation if Cena's talking, and Cena's going to add to the conversation if Joel's talking, and there's a certain progression movement there that actually draws you in, and we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from that kind of dialogue type conversational format.
Well, I've known you for a long time, but without a doubt, on a personal level, I could just share with you and everybody listening that your message and what you're all about, what you've been teaching for years, is so important today. I'm going to do everything I can to get this out, but I know it's ultimately going to be up to each and every person that listens to this program to take action. I hope at the very least they start by getting your book. How can they get a hold of your book? Where do they go?
You can get anywhere books are sold. You can go on Amazon. You can get it from our Polyface store here. But anywhere books are sold, you're welcome to get it. And I so appreciate you saying it's up to the individual. That's one of the things that we stress in the book. If you're waiting for a government agency to tell you how to eat, if you're waiting for a business to tell you how to eat, if you're waiting for a label to tell you how to eat, you're going to be waiting a long time, and you're probably not going to actually, be satisfied. And so not until we take individual responsibility for our decisions are we actually able to make the progress that we want to make. So I really appreciate your making that point, and it's a profound one. We all would love to say, well, I'd be fine if those people there would make better decisions, if those people would do better, if blah blah blah, I could do fine. But ultimately, if we wait around for everybody else to make the right decisions, we're going to be very disappointed. And so we need to start making good decisions now for ourselves and for our families.
100%, Joel. Beyond labels, go get the book. And by the way, real quick, Joel, if someone want to take a more I don't know, I like to say radical. I don't think it's so radical. I do it every day, my wife and I, where we spend our dollars. But if somebody wanted to make a big change in the way they eat, can they actually order food from your farm depending on where they are in the U.S.? I know we have people that listen in the U.K. and Canada and Australia and New Zealand. Those are our big marketplace of places where people listen to my programs. So can you speak to that? Where can people, do they have the ability to order your food?
Yeah, if you're in the continental, we don't export, but if you're in the continental U.S., the lower 48, we can ship anywhere in the U.S. On the lower 48. Anywhere in the mainland of the U.S. We ship weekly, and our website is polyfacefarms.com. If you just start typing in POLY, it'll usually pop right up. Polyface Farms, and it's a very comprehensive website. You go there and find lots of interesting things, and we welcome anyone.
Joel, I know you've been on some big shows, Joe Rogan, the podcast, and all of that. I just want to share with you that I've been a big fan of yours for years, and I really respect everything you're doing, and I fully support it, and I hope you keep going on for years and years. The world needs you big time.
Thank you for having me. Our tribe desperately needs great leaders and voices. You're one of them. Thank you for your leadership, Jonathan, and look forward to getting with you again another day.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.